Nah, I'd win. 3 words. That's all it took for an entire generation of anime fans to believe one man was untouchable. T-shirts were made, memes were born, millions of people repeated it like a gospel. But here's the question nobody asked. What if Gojo believed it too? What if that confidence, that unshakable, almost arrogant certainty, was the exact thing that got him killed? Today, I'm going to tell you something that 99% of JJK fans completely missed. Sukuna didn't kill Gojo Satoru. Gojo's greatest weakness did. And that weakness had nothing to do with power levels, curse techniques, or domain amplification. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will never see Gojo the same way again.
Let's establish something first, because if you've only watched the anime, your understanding of Gojo Satoru is incomplete. For the first time in 400 years, a single human was born with both the 6 eyes and the limitless technique simultaneously. This wasn't just being strong, this was a cosmic anomaly, a recalibration of the entire jujutsu world. Curses went into hiding, sorcerers started fearing him, and the old elites running the jujutsu society, the ones controlling everything from behind closed doors, they knew immediately. If this child grows up with the wrong ideas, our whole system collapses. So what did they do? They didn't raise him, they didn't love him, they built him into a weapon.
And here's where it gets disturbing, because if you look at every single major loss in Gojo's life, there is one pattern, the same pattern, over and over again. And that pattern is literally what Sukuna exploited to kill him. I'll prove it to you with receipts. Let's go through Gojo's major fights, not the power scaling, the pattern. Fight number 1, Toji Fushigura. Gojo lost to Toji. You remember that fight. Why did he lose? Because for one fraction of a second, he deactivated Infinity. He thought he was safe. He let his guard down. Toji chose that exact second. Fight number 2, the Shibuya incident. Gojo got sealed in the prison realm. How? Because he walked into what he believed was a controlled environment. He calculated the risks and concluded he was safe enough to engage. Kenjaku and his allies waited for precisely that moment of certainty. Fight number 3, Sukuna. Gege Akutami, the creator himself, has indicated that when Gojo successfully destroyed Mahoraga, Gojo internally concluded that Sukuna no longer had a reliable method to bypass Infinity. In that moment, he exhaled. Metaphorically, he relaxed, and Sukuna was waiting for exactly that. Do you see the pattern? Every single time Gojo loses, it's not because the enemy overpowered him directly. It's because Gojo felt safe, and the moment he felt safe, he became vulnerable. This is not a writing coincidence. This is intentional character design, and it makes complete psychological sense. When you grow up in a world where no one is your equal, where no one can challenge you, you lose the instinct to stay vigilant during calm moments. Because calm was never safe for Gojo growing up. It was always the eye of a storm. But as an adult, in battle, the moment he achieved calm, he read it as victory. His enemies read it as opportunity. Same feeling, opposite meanings. That gap is what killed Gojo Satoru.
But here's the part that actually shocked me. Sukuna didn't just exploit Gojo's psychology, he used Gojo's own genius against him. He literally turned Gojo's greatest intellectual achievement into the weapon that ended him. And once you understand how, you'll realize this fight was never a fair game to begin with. Now let's talk about the actual fight, and I need to say something controversial first. Sukuna was weaker than Gojo. Not my words, Gege's words. The creator himself has indicated that in a pure technique versus technique comparison, Gojo's limitless and 6 eyes give him the edge. So how did Sukuna win? He cheated, technically, but brilliantly. Sukuna took over Megumi's body, accessed 10 Shadows technique, and summoned Mahoraga. Now, Mahoraga is broken for one reason. It adapts. Give it enough time against any technique, and it will evolve a counter to it. Gojo knew this. He made a plan. Destroy Mahoraga fast enough that it can't fully adapt to Infinity. And he did it. Mahoraga went down. Gojo thought, it's over. But Sukuna wasn't trying to win through Mahoraga. He was using Mahoraga as a data collector. The entire time Mahoraga was adapting to infinity, Sukuna was watching, studying, reverse engineering the adaptation model in real time. And then, after Gojo destroyed Mahoraga and relaxed, Sukuna didn't attack Gojo directly, he attacked the space Gojo existed in. He expanded the target of his dismantle from Gojo's body to the entire fabric of space around him. Infinity protects Gojo from things approaching him, but infinity can't protect the space itself from being cut. This is 1,000 years of battlefield intelligence. This is a man who existed during the Heian era, when jujutsu sorcerers were at their most powerful, and survived when hundreds of them tried to stop him collectively. Gojo was a genius born into the modern world. Sukuna was a genius who had 1,000 years to perfect being a genius. There was only ever going to be one outcome.
But here's the thing that actually keeps me up at night about this. What if the power scaling, the techniques, the domain amplification, what if none of that was the real story? What if Gojo didn't actually want to survive? I know that sounds insane. Stay with me. Gojo spent his entire life building something. Not power, not status. He built students, Yuji, Megumi, Nobara. He poured everything into creating a generation that could surpass him. Ask yourself, why? The surface answer is he wanted a better future for jujutsu sorcerers. Sure, that's true. But dig deeper. Why does a man who has never had an equal, who has been completely alone at the top since his teenage years, dedicate his life to making others strong enough to replace him? Because he wanted out. Not out of life, but out of the isolation. Gojo's cursed technique is called infinity. Let that sit for a second. Infinity. An endless, uncrossable distance between him and everything else, between him and harm, between him and people. His own power was literally a metaphor for his loneliness. He couldn't turn it off, not completely, not without risking everything. He was untouchable by design, and untouchability is another word for unreachable. And then Sukuna showed up.
Now I'm gonna say something the JJK community doesn't want to hear. Gojo losing to Sukuna was not the biggest writing mistake in JJK. It was the best narrative decision Gege ever made, with the worst possible execution. The concept is flawless. The strongest character in the series loses not because of power, but because of psychology, because of trauma, because of loneliness. That is peak storytelling. But then what happened? Gojo's death was shown off-panel. The character who made JJK mainstream, the character whose face is on every piece of merchandise, the character who made millions of people watch this series, killed, off-screen, in one panel, followed by side characters discussing it over tea in the next chapter. This is the man who said, "Nah, I'd win." This is the man who sacrificed his entire life, his friendships, his youth, his peace, to protect a world that weaponized him since birth. He deserved a goodbye. Gege was genuinely ill during the final arc. That's documented. And it shows, not in the ideas, but in the execution. The pacing collapsed. Deaths felt rushed. Emotional payoffs were skipped. The fan anger was real, and it wasn't irrational. It was grief for a character who was handled with less care than he deserved. The idea of Gojo losing? A masterpiece. The execution of his death? Gege's biggest creative debt to his audience.
If this video made you think differently about a character you thought you already understood, hit the like button right now. Seriously, it tells the algorithm that deep JJK content like this deserves to exist, and it takes you literally 1 second. If you're new here, subscribe. And next video, I'm going to make the case that Sukuna is the most tragic character in JJK. Not Gojo, not Yuji, not Megumi. Sukuna. And by the time I'm done, you're going to feel genuinely sorry for the King of Curses. Drop in the comments, Gojo should have won, or Gojo was never meant to win, and give me your reason. I read every single comment. See you in the next one.